And then they finally figured out that the old Hittite Empire was in Turkey, and then the new empire moved more to that Israel, Lebanon, Palestine area.
And I think to put it in the modern context again, that would be like, say, archaeologists in 2,000 years from now looking at the Philistines of old and the Palestinians of today and trying to work out, well, hang on, did they come from the Greek islands or were they Arabs? So a lot of the time, people they'll take on the identity or sometimes the name of different groups.
Yes, they will. Yep. So politically, they were similar. They had a monarchy, and it was centralized technically. So Hittite kings, the capital was a place called Hattusa, and
what a great name that is, by the way, Hattusa.
Hattusa sounds very strong.
Hattusa. I'd like to visit Hattusa.
You probably need a archaeology degree. Probably.
I don't have the archaeology degree. I've got the history degree.
Well, yeah, that counts as well. Yeah. But the Hittites, interestingly, despite the fact that they had a centralized monarchy, they had so many internal civil wars. There was lots of jealousy and other issues. There was an occasion where a boat full of goods was supposed to arrive and it didn't, and then there was blame going everywhere, and there was backstabbing, as a lot happened in the ancient world as well. Now, some of the famous kings, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but here we go. Suppiluliuma I was the one who really expanded the Hittite Empire inside Anatolia. Muwatalli II, who that was a huge fight he had with Ramses II of Egypt. So
that was the Battle of Kadesh.
Yes, do you want to talk about that, Chris? The Battle of Kadesh.
That could be an episode of its own, but it's one that has been written about. And we get information from the Egyptian side, so maybe a little bit of bias there. But look, I guess if you consider the location. And I'm getting back to trade again because I can't emphasize the importance of trade in history and particularly in this region. So you've got Anatolia, Turkey, just to make it easy, modern day Turkey. So a lot of the land route goes through there. Now, in particular, where you've got a lot of the tin coming from Afghanistan, it's coming straight through that region. So every region trade goes through, there's a bit that's taken off, taxed, and then on sold. So it was certainly a very profitable and popular region. And also being land-based, you do see a lot more land battles. The Anatolian region in particular, I mean, we're talking the cradle of civilization. You see sites such as Göbekli Tepe, just to name a few, Troy. So we're talking, a very ancient and historical region that had a very, very different demographic to its modern one. The modern Turks are more from sort of like Turkmenistan, Central Asia, and it was very much a Greek Mediterranean. So sort of think your Greeks, your Arabs, your Jews, that sort of demographic. What was the prevalent demographic of the time. And look, because of their location, they had a really strong and robust economy. Agriculture, because of, once again, you've got the lands, you're not too far from the plains there as well, was big. Mining and metalworking was huge, particularly with iron. Now, even though it's the Bronze Age, once again, we're going back to iron. And I often wonder, had the Bronze Age collapse not occurred, would we have seen an Iron Age occur earlier? Would that have pushed humanity forward? Would we be talking about, the Industrial Revolution of the 1300s and, the computer revolution of the 1500s.
And
it's interesting to think about.
The Hittites would have probably stayed as an empire potentially. We don't know, and we'll never know the answer to these questions. But
look, history, there's a lot of what ifs.
Yes.
And look, they were their big trade. Obviously, like most metals, they brought in a lot of potteries and textiles, and mainly they were trading with Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Mycenaeans. And
they were the big ones too. And I know if you look at a lot of manifests and even the I think it's somewhere in Egypt where they've got the stone feet with the lists, and originally they thought that the lists were names of people or countries, but it was actually manifest lists and trade route lists. So it actually listed each town that they went to. So they most of those trade routes were kind of clockwise around the Mediterranean, depending on the winds and all those things. But it was a really advanced network. And even the Egyptians, with their recording of it, they recorded those trade routes, and some of those nations that they mentioned in those lists. We'll get to Egypt soon, but they don't even exist, and historians struggle to find where some of those nations existed actually. So, but anyway, but that's just part of the trade route of the area. So they were trading.
And I guess one thing I do want to mention, and it's something in general. I think we've got this modern perception that people from 2,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago, from this time, were backwards and weren't very bright. I mean, realistically, they are the same as us right now. The only difference is we've just been born in an era with a lot more information, a lot more technology. But I can tell you, if an ancient Hittite happened to be born in our society, they would be indistinguishable from us.
Even Pythagoras' theorem was invented by the Babylonians.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's very easy of us to think of these warlike barbarians who are really simple and how clever are we? But look, we're clever because of our technology. It's that's it. And okay, so if we go to looking back at the Hittites, I guess as far as military, they love their battles, they love their wars, and we mentioned the Battle of Kadesh earlier, which was 1274 BCE or thereabouts, so roughly 100 years before the collapse. And why it's actually rather famous is because it's actually the world's oldest known peace treaty, which I think is just a really cool thing.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
They're writing and signing peace treaties back in 1274 BC.
The Hittites and the Egyptians have sat down at the table.
Yep, 3,300 years ago.
Zelensky
almost 3,300 years ago. You know what? It's peace. If they could do it back then, we can do it now. Exactly. Absolutely.
I think it's a great fact, though. Like it's and the fact that it's well documented as well.
Yeah,
just makes it even more.
Incidentally, I'm looking at how long we've been going for, and I'm looking at how many civilizations we've got to go. I think this is going to be a multi-part on the civilizations.
But that's okay. We'll see. This is why we do it, because we love history so much, and we just go on and on about it.
and look, it's anyone who's watching and listening to this. If you can't tell that we're passionate about this, if you can't tell that we love it, I mean, come on.
Look behind me.
Yeah, mine's all downstairs, but I can't walk past a bookshop. Well, yeah, but I can't walk past. Mind you, and I've said this before. Okay, look, I've got a degree. It's a bit of paper. Okay, but I can tell you now, the amount that you've read and the conversations you and I have, you're more knowledgeable than probably 90% of people who have a degree. Yeah. So you go and get that bit of paper down. I keep telling you. Anyway,
I would love to do it. Yes. Anyway, we digress.
So if we're looking at, I guess, archaeological and cultural sort of significance, the Hittites actually left behind a lot of, quite extensive cuneiform texts that that went into details about their law, religion, diplomacy. There's been excavations, particularly at Hattusa, which once again there was a German. It was Winkler, who was the German archaeologist, German historians of the 19th century and early 20th century. I take my hat off to them. They kind of went a bit funny in the towards the early to middle part of the 20th century, but the 19th century, their historians were absolutely sensational.
But it was all